Hi class, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Welcome to Healthcare Information System subject. Today we will continue our lecture to chapter 10, intro, interoperability within and across healthcare system. Okay, before we go in deep to the interoperability subject slide. So I would like to explain to you what is the learning objective of the chapter. Yeah, interoperability. So the pronoun is interoperability. Okay, at the end of this chapter, we expect that you are able to discuss an interoperability in general. So what is interoperability and why this interoperability is very important uh, in general, especially in ICT project implementation. And in these subjects, we focus on the healthcare information system. Yeah. And then we also expect that after this subject is finished, after this chapter is explained, you are able to discuss and understanding the interoperability in healthcare. So why the interoperability is required, uh, crucial in healthcare information system. And to gain insight on interoperability requirement of EMR. So when you want to implement the EMR system, so you need to uh, include your design consideration about the interoperability. So when you develop, for example, you develop one of the clinical services in the hospital. Let's say take one department, pharmacy. So you develop pharmacy information system. So you need to consider the integration with other application within the hospital. Yep. And then lastly, we expect that you are able to discuss the healthcare interoperability benefit. So you can describe what is the benefit, what is the good thing that you implement the interoperability capability of your application. Yep. So you as a IT consultant or IT vendor, you need to advise, your user when you design something. You need to justify. You need to uh, tell to your user so why we need this, why we need that, why we need to implement this, why we need to buy the a good server, why we need to use web services and so on. Okay, in introduction, okay, so the interoperability problem in healthcare information system is manifested in patient monitoring, yeah, diagnostic, decision support, clinical support services, and communication system needed at the point of care. So you just imagine that when you go to the hospital, any hospital, whether in Malaysia, in Bangladesh, in India, across the world, so hospital consists a lot of department or services. Yeah. So you will go to the registration counter first when you walk into the hospital. So the registration is mainly for the administration of the patient. Yeah. And then you just imagine that a lot of hundred of thousand of patients come into the hospital. Yeah? Especially when you see uh, in television, in YouTube. So how uh, how busy the patient and also health worker manage the vaccination program in Malaysia. So there are a lot of people required, volunteer required to manage the registration part, until the system is down. Okay, so you can see that there are a lot of services involved, not only clinical workers, but we also require administrative worker to manage the patient information. As a registration is very important in healthcare. When you talk about healthcare, everything is information. Yeah. So if you compare with other industry, for example, banking industry or retail industry, when you go to Mydin, for example, or Tesco, they require your patient biodata, your family history, your next of kin, your insurance. No, but what they are concerned is you buy a lot of goods, so that is good for them. Yeah, the more you buy, the more benefit they will gain from you. So, but in healthcare industry is different. Yeah, so everything is involved the data or information. So the information generate is come from various department or various services. So that's why the interoperability got a problem in healthcare industry, because there are many party, there are many services, and there are many departments involved in these services. And when you take one example, so medical system or medical equipment, they have their own standard. They use their own standard. For example, the uh, images department or radiology department, they their machine is involved a lot of image, and the most famous is DICOM, for example. Nowadays they use PAC, PACS. So this involve standard and protocol they use. For example, PAC, Picture Archive Computerization System. So they have their own standard. So when you go to the pathology laboratory department, for example, they use another standard. They use ICD-10 PCS, for example. Yep. Or they use level 7. Some of the department never use HL7. So when you go to the pharmacy department, for example, they're running a Linux server. They Because some of the hospital, especially in the government, their budget is distributed, decentralized, so they can choose any application that they want. Uh, that's why they are not following the uh, common standard. And then when you go to the patient repository in the general physician practice, for example, they use uh, another computer technology. They use Windows, for example, Linux, Windows, DICOM, HR7. So there are many type of standard and protocol involved in the application within the hospital. This is within hospital, one hospital. How about another hospital? How about another hospital in Malaysia? So a lot of uh, miscommunication, unstandard uh, of the system. Yeah. So heterogeneity in network computing environment is common in healthcare information system. So software interoperability provides necessary mechanism to integrate these disparate but related resources into a single computational environment to achieve effective resource utilization. Okay, I think you understand why the interoperability is a one chapter that we need to discuss in healthcare information system, because the nature of the healthcare uh, industry is involve a lot of party, a lot of services within different department, yeah, in the hospital. So that's why the interoperability is a hot topic, yeah, to discuss in the healthcare information system implementation. When we talk about e-health, we talk about digital health. So this is the first thing that we need to consider in our design and also the requirement. So what is interoperability all about? So interoperability is the context in the context of business application. It means that the computer system, the different computer system is able to communicate and able to exchange the information regardless technology they use. Yeah. So when you talk about nowadays technologies, for example, e-commerce. So you know that what is the bank A, bank B, bank C technology, computer technology that they use? You don't know, right? And you know what language that Lazada use? You don't know. What type of server that Shopee use? You don't know. Yeah. So, but in terms of the business requirement, all the business stakeholder, Lazada, Shopee, or personal uh, seller, and also the bank, what at the end of the day, what they concern is the business is the business transaction can be made easily, and they got the benefit. Okay, so this is a business application means about the interoperability. So you can see that Lazada or Shopee or Amazon, eBay and so on, yeah, they use the especially on the payment gateway. So the payment gateway is actually a very good example of interoperability services, yeah. So they will get the information from any seller or any banks, and then they can realize that the payment can be made regardless technology that used in your company. So interoperability in the context of software application means the capability with which two or more program, okay, is same with the business application. Of course, is back to the computer program. Yeah, like I said, the Lazada, maybe their computer software is based on the Java technology, or maybe Shopee is based on Microsoft technology, or Maybank to you, for example, they use different technology. Maybe they still use a legacy system, yeah, COBOL, PL1, or assembler system, assembler language, and so on. So So when you talk about interoperability, they don't care about what you use in your application. Okay, as long as you can communicate each other, you can share the data, you can you can pass or receive the information. So that is interoperability. So what is interoperability in healthcare? So like I said in the introduction, so interoperability in the context of healthcare means the ability of different computer system uh, from various department within the hospital or inter-hospital, yeah, they can communicate, they can exchange the data, they can share the information, right? Between the healthcare professional and also the nurses and all the health worker involved in the healthcare services. So interoperability is the ability of electronic health record and other healthcare data management system to communicate with one another and to exchange information seamlessly. Okay, so this is a good term, seamlessly. So when you make one transaction, e-commerce transaction, when you buy one's goods from Shopee, so the information is seamlessly sent to the specific bank, right? And then uh, the bank system or FPX will process your payment. Yeah. Uh, the important thing that you pass your authentication. Yeah. And then the bank will process the payment uh, on behalf of the Shopee or Lazada. So interoperability allow the desperation of many health applications to be communicated with one another. So you can see that when you talk about one person, example, we take one example of uh, COVID-19 patient in the ward. Yeah? So one is doctor. Yeah? Doctor will attend the patient. So they will scan the patient, will ask the medical history, whether the patient got high risk. For example, whether the patient got hypertension, diabetic, heart problems. So this is a main information, yeah, very crucial information for the doctor uh, to prepare the treatment plan for the patient. And then when the patient give the information about their medical history, so they will prescribe the drug, okay, the drug history, like here. So they will ask on the procedure history, and then the doctor will prescribe the drug, right? After they got the information regarding critical problem. Yeah, this is hypertension, diabetes, heart problem, and then they will pass the patient to radiology for uh, investigating, yeah, their lung, for example. Yeah. So you can see that there are many there are many services involved to provide a good services to the patient. So that's why uh, if the patient, if the hospital manage one patient, so there are many services required to make sure that that patient got a good services. Yeah. And when we don't have last time we don't have the computer system, so everything is done through manual, handwritten. There are many errors, and this is not a good way how we want to manage the healthcare services in millennia, this millennia, or in another 5 years or 10 years from now. Okay. So because you can see that every day we got a thousand of COVID-19 patients. Yeah. So our hospital is overloaded now. So you can see that the electronic medical record is very important. Yeah. If we have a centralized electronic medical record, we don't need to uh, busy with the vaccination registration. Yeah. So the hospital or health center can contact or can extract the EMR or EHR of the patient, and then they can send the message to the citizen for uh, for the vaccination appointment. Yeah. So we don't need to put a lot of budget, 70 million, for example, to develop a vaccination appointment system, or to computerize the workflow of vaccination program. So we need to ask our country, or ask our minister, that why we need to develop this system for the purpose of one-time process. So after COVID-19, for example, finish. So what we want to use for this application, this 70 million of application. So we need to think a long term plan. So I think the most important thing that our country or other country should have in the healthcare is a centralized electronic health record or lifetime health record of the patient. So this is a very important. So when you, let's say you join the electronic health record in the stage of uh, your age is 2 years, for example. Then when you come to age of 50 years old, then the doctor easily, the health worker easily extract your medical history without asking you. Right. So this is a thing that we have to focus in our country to develop the centralized electronic health record. Okay, so what is interoperability in healthcare? I think you understand now why we need the interoperability and why we are concerned about interoperability in healthcare information system in healthcare industry. Yeah. The answer is because there are many department or services in the hospital that that may use different system, different technology, different standard, yeah, different protocol. Okay, that's why interoperability is important. So interoperability in EMR, I already told you that because electronic medical record is all about the patient information about their uh, health record. Yeah. So when they go to the pharmacy, so their drug information is stored in the pharmacy. When they go to the radiology, so their images will be stored in the radiology department. When they go to the laboratory, so their lab tests will be stored in the lab department. So we need to consolidate, we need to integrate all this information into the one electronic medical record. Yeah. So basically, our citizens should have we should uh, put a focus uh, by stressing on the generation of EMR. One citizen should have one EMR, yeah, for their entire life. Okay, when you go to the physician room or department, the physician normally clock in the consultation and clinical finding of the patient in EMR system. So different department, different services, they have their own set of data of the patient. Yeah. So interoperability of EMR is very important. So when we click patient number 123, so all the information should be seamlessly retrieved and displayed, and we can the health worker or healthcare professional can browse the patient medical record history, so that it help the doctor uh, process of determining the diseases, diagnose the problem of the patient. So without that information, it's very difficult to predict the problem or the diagnosis of the patient. Okay. So healthcare interoperability benefit. So I told you just now. Firstly is increased medical data accuracy. And of course, when the medical data is accurate, so we can make sure that the medical errors will be avoided. Yeah. So in US, I think this is a big issue. A lot of patients die because of medical error. Wrongly prescribe the drugs. It's not because of their disease problem or their health problem. Let's say they got hypertension. Uh, a majority, a lot of American die is not because of hypertension. It is because of wrongly prescribed the drug. Maybe the drug is overdose or wrong drug taken. Yeah. So if you enter in the medical field, drug is very sensitive things. Need to be careful when you consume the drug. If you overdose, maybe let's say you take a lot of paracetamol, yeah, so it will damage your uh, kidney, yeah, your kidney. So healthcare interoperability benefit, it speed the data or information access compared to a manual system. When you go to the registration department, if the system is interoperability, so you can link. Yeah, you can link. The system can extract your information by typing the uh, my card ID or passport ID. Yeah. And then interoperability benefit because it reduces the redundancy and thus reduce healthcare costs of repeating the same test. Yeah, this is happen in Malaysia or in other country. When you go, when you when you visit one hospital to another hospital, they will repeat the process, right? They will repeat the same test because the information cannot be shared. If let's say you go to Hospital Malacca and then you gone through the lab test, images, you consume a drug and information is stored in the EMR. So when you is transferred to Hospital Kuala Lumpur, so all the tests shouldn't be repeated, right? So the information can be retrieved, yeah, from Hospital Malacca to Hospital Kuala Lumpur. So this is a benefit of interoperability. So interoperability can secure the data storage and sustain information readability, and finally improve decision making of physician, thus improve patient care. So when the doctor got information about the patient completely, yeah, inside, so it's easy for them to make a decision on the treatment to be taken by the patient. So what is the difficulty in interoperability? So to implement the interoperability uh, element, yeah, characteristic of the application, it not only involve on the technical part, yeah. So the most challenging factor is a people. So people also part of the interoperability process. So and also the standard example, terminology, coding, and classification. You remember that I touched in, I don't remember what chapter that we touched on the terminology, classification, coding standard. I asked you to develop ICD-10 search and so on. So this is a part of the interoperability. Yeah. So ICD-10 search. Yeah. So you need to uh, implement the same coding standard in all the applications so that the interoperability can be achieved. If you, let's say, I give a lecture in English, of course, this is a international language. Of course, all perhaps all of the student understand the English language. Let's say I give a lecture in Arabic, so of course the uh, Arab student only understand my lecture. Maybe some of the Malaysian student they learn Arabic language, so they understand. But some of them, maybe 50%, not understand. So this is a issue of interoperability. So we need a language, a standard language, coding classification, so that the interoperability can be achieved. Yeah, this is what I. Another thing is a process documentation. So this is what I told you. Involve people. Yeah. The process should be the process of giving a services to the patient should be standard. Yeah. I give a simple example. Every patient walk in, they have to register in the registration counter. So they cannot walk in directly to the doctor room. They have to register. So this is a standard, process standard. Document it. Document means we have a logging system, registration system. We log when the patient is arrive in the hospital, what time, uh, which department that they want to go, they want to what services that they require. So this is a process documentation should be standard in the hospital, especially I think KKM, for example, Ministry of Health, they have their own standard clinical process. Yeah? I hope so. Yeah, yeah, they have the clinical pathway. Yeah? And then proper use of available standard, HS7, ICD-10, ICD-11, uh, to force the hospital, especially private hospital, they they are not centralized. Yeah? They operate based on their investor, so they can choose any standard that they like, right? They prefer. So this is a difficulty. A lot of system implemented in the private hospital, for example, even in the government hospital, they don't use a standard. Okay, so no quality labeling. Yeah, so maybe the system implement the labeling system. Some of the hospital doesn't have labeling system. Some of the hospital have half of labeling system. So this is a standard that need to implement all over the hospital across the country. Another difficulties in interoperability implementation is a lack of awareness. So maybe the non-IT workers, health workers, they don't see the benefit. They cannot calculate the risk impact of ICT. So nowadays we see the impact why we don't use the EHR or electronic medical record across the country. Why the vaccination process is very slow? Why the vaccination registration become a problem? Appointment become a problem. We have very systematic healthcare services in Malaysia. We have rural clinic. We have health center. We have district hospital. We have state hospital, we have tertiary hospital, we have specialist hospital. So the system, the flow is there already. Yeah. And then what we lack is the computerization of the system. So why not we computerize the electronic medical record of the patient, centralized, yeah, so that I don't think that if we already have the EMR across country, so we don't have this problem of having the appointment for vaccination. Yep. So healthcare organization and decision maker not in a position to properly ask for interoperability conformance, validate interoperability conformance, impose interoperability conformance. So they don't have this uh, ability to do, because yeah, we don't finger pointing to the healthcare organization director. Maybe they come from medical background. So we need the IT professional, which is very honest to say that, okay, this is interoperability requirement need to be implemented with this, what they call it, a very, uh, uh, very affordable price, for example. Yeah, realistic budget and so on. Okay, if we work together between vendor and government, not only for profit. Sometimes the vendor uh, pressure the government to buy the IT application with unrealistic budget, unrealistic cost. Let's say one laptop we can get 4,000 ringgit, so they put or they mark up the price to 10,000 ringgit. So this is happen. Yeah, this is okay. From the list of the difficulties of interoperability implementation, I think the main three important thing that need to be done, need to be implemented is the terminology standard, people, yeah, a process. Yeah? So this is very important. You can see this cartoon. People is very important. Yeah. Uh, when we want to make a changes, nobody willing to adapt. Yeah, very difficult to adapt, and most of them will reluctant to accept the change. Yeah? When I ask you, a student, to do a new thing, of course you will reluctant. You resist to accept it. Not to say all, but maybe majority. So let's say I ask you, okay, this ABC project, so you need to implement it, or you need to develop using React, yeah, React software technology. So of course you will think about difficulty. You need to learn from A to Z, time, right? Uh, you need to learn. So of course the student will find the shortcut solution. So I learn example. For example, you, okay, I already learned PHP. Why not I use PHP, right? So people will find the way to escape, right? This is normal. Yeah? This is normal. If you ask the people, of course, none of the people prefer a difficult way. They will find the simple way. But simple way and difficult way will result different way. Yeah, will result you different way. Okay, if you don't want to change now, so you will suffer later. All right. For example, If the country cannot accept the challenge how to implement the EMR across the country, so they will suffer. In one day, they will suffer because the patient is increased, the complexity of the technology, medical equipment nowadays is digital. Yeah, they use advanced technology. How you want to use the robotic in medical, artificial intelligence in medical, if you cannot accept, cannot adapt the IT technology, if you don't want to learn about the new IT technology, how you want to use it? Yeah, let's say you very some of the doctor, they very rigid with the manual system. They just use a pen and pencil or pen in and paper. Then one day we ask them to use the mouse. So so for them it's very difficult. Yeah. So they will ask you that can you implement the system after he or she retire. Right. So of course people need to manage accordingly. Yeah. So we give a motivation, or we give some allowance. Yeah. Example, you remember that you need to ask your parents. Example, the parent that who teacher, when our prime minister Mahathir asked to uh, change, uh, the education system, using English to teach the mathematics and science. So a lot of resistance from the cikgu-cikgu, from the teacher, because we don't say that they are not clever. They don't they cannot teach in English. But because you just imagine that when you are very familiar with your mother tongue language, then I send you to another country which is you never use that language. So you feel difficult, right? You need to learn it. So language is not difficult. It's a practice. Yeah. If you don't practice, so you are unable to talk. But by time, right? So you remember that the government give allowance, special allowance to the teacher who teach the science, mathematics and science in English language. Yeah. So this is motivation. So they suffer to learn, struggle to learn, start to use a new language. Yeah. So in order to change or to get the interoperability, so we need to find a very smart way. We need to uh, design the process, yeah, how the existing staff or the legacy staff able to adapt the new things. Okay, student, this is a thing to do about interoperability in healthcare information system. So we got six things to be implement if you want to make your system or your healthcare information system interoperability. Six uh, element. Yeah, you read by yourself, so I don't want to explain this one. So first, set effective strategy. You must strategize how to improve the interoperability. Secondly, you need to develop the standard terminology which is can adapt by the organization or country. So you need a team. Yeah. Thirdly is dedicated of team expert. So you need to collect or build a committee of for the interoperability team. Yeah. consists of subject matter expert, IT expert, business process re-engineering expert, yeah, the stakeholder, the senior people, senior people in the industry, so that they can see the overall requirement and easy for the IT designer or solution architect to come up with the best solution. Fourth is interoperability for value-based care. So we need to uh, identify the value-based care. For example, the integration between medical management from the doctor room, order to the pharmacy, lab, uh, radiology. So this is a frequently use of services from the room of the doctor or from ward. So this is a value based, but meaning to say that you need to identify which services is very critical need for interoperability. Yeah. Fifth is interoperability for better patient outcome. So that means you need to identify which services that involve a lot of patient. So the objective of computerization of the system for certain industry is to give a benefit to the user or to the customer, your customer. So patient is a customer for healthcare provider. So they, for example, private hospital, they pay a lot of money to get one services of healthcare. So the service that the hospital give to the patient, is it fair for the money that the patient spend? So this is a thing that you need to consider in order to make the system interoperability. So when you talk about interoperability, there's a lot of integration effort need to be done. Yeah. The last one is interoperability technology. So you need to consider the technology to be used. Yeah. Data format, protocol, the data protocol, for example, HS7, yeah? And then other things that you need to consider uh, is the scalability of the technology. Yeah. So whether you want to use open source of technology, you go by Linux or you go by Windows or other technologies. You go by, for Java language, or you go by Microsoft technology or Google technology. So you need to uh, scan through or do some research, especially the technology can be support for 20 or 20, 30 years later. Okay. Okay, class. In summary, with the help of advanced technology available in the healthcare industry today, the physician and healthcare provider not only match patient record, but readily share medical data necessarily for decision making through the interoperability characteristic. Yeah. And many providers miss opportunity to leverage interoperability solution due to lack of IT resources. Due to lack of IT resources means maybe because of some of the vendor, their thinking is about a profit, so they want to make the project can be finished early. Yeah. Uh, in order to get the interoperability, you need time. You need time to analyze, and then you need to understand the overall process in and out, and then you come up with the design, the solution, how one system to another system can get a common language, common term to be used to share the information, to share the network, to share the application, yeah, seamlessly. So there are a lot of research need to be done, yeah. Although there are many ready framework for interoperability, but you need to research and do proper research so that you don't need to do a lot of redo of or redesign your application in future, yeah. So this is very important because you as a software architect or software engineer, so you need to think at least 10 years later, yeah? 10 years later, so that you do once, then at least 10 years of technology of changes can be accommodated to your application. Okay, class, I think that's it for interoperability chapter. I hope not only healthcare information system need to be include this capability, this interoperability. Other application also need to include this type of or this characteristic of application interoperability, yeah. uh, yeah, of course, when you develop a simple system, so you can see why you cannot appreciate the interoperability requirement, yeah. Okay, if you like this a lecture, please press like. You can share this video to your friend in other university, and if you don't understand, please write a comment at the below of this video. Okay, see you later. Thank you very much, and assalamualaikum.